Hello, how's everybody doing? It's me, Waifu Belector, and the other day, Naughty Dog creative director Neil Druckmann gave us the smallest bit of insight in regard to what he and the team at Naughty Dog might be cooking up next. So of course, I'm here to take a look at what he said and then wildly speculate as if I know what I'm talking about. So strap in and come on this journey with me, will ya? Now, I'm just gonna paraphrase the worthwhile bit of what Neil said so that we can get through this a little faster. But basically, he said that the new game that Naughty Dog is working on is already decided, that they have nailed down the actual game that they want to begin working on. What he did not say was whether or not it is The Last of Us Part 3 like so many people want. He did, however, acknowledge the fact that so many people do indeed want that. He said, quote, "I know that fans really want The Last of Us Part 3. I hear about it all the time." So yes, he knows you guys want it. Now, you may be saying, but wait, aren't they working on a The Last of Us multiplayer game? Isn't that their next project? And you'd be right to say that. That is in fact the case, but that's not what Neil is talking about here. What he's talking about is Naughty Dog's next big, presumably single player endeavor that would follow the multiplayer game. But I gotta be honest, as disappointing as it may be for some people, I don't think their next game will be The Last of Us Part 3. One reason is because of the aforementioned The Last of Us multiplayer game. Neil and Naughty Dog have said that their multiplayer game will be as big and as detailed and as robust as any of their single player titles. And I currently have no reason to believe that that isn't true, especially considering that this game will likely be the vanguard of the wider PlayStation Studios plan to break into multiplayer with Force. But another detail that Neil shared about the multiplayer game back when it was officially revealed during the Game Awards was that it would have a story. Now, why is that significant? Because the game likely also features PvP. Not only will it likely feature PvP, the PvP aspects will probably be the focal point of the game, because the original The Last of Us had a PvP multiplayer mode called Factions. And so a lot of players are probably expecting something like that, but bigger, better, and more refined. So Naughty Dog is likely to oblige. But if that were true, that would mean now Naughty Dog is doing a big, cool PvP The Last of Us thing that'll probably have multiple game modes, as well as the story and narrative components that'll likely be an entirely different mode, perhaps played in co-op, maybe a little PvE going on. And with all that, it then just starts to be a lot. And I honestly expect nothing less from them. But it's like, yeah, we're doing this multiplayer game. It has standard PvP deathmatch. Maybe it's got a cool episodic co-op campaign. Maybe there's an Escape from Tarkov / DMZ-esque game mode. I mean, honestly, The Last of Us universe is perfect for that. But what I'm saying is, you put this big multiplayer game together, and I can totally see the team just being burnt out and wanting to kind of take a break from The Last of Us as their primary focus. I mean, you gotta think. For literally the last decade, these people have done nothing but The Last of Us and Uncharted. And maybe you don't want to reach a place where you're fully predictable. Maybe you still want some spontaneity. You might not want to go the Bethesda route where it's just Elder Scrolls Fallout, Elder Scrolls Fallout, Elder Scrolls Fallout, and that's just all you do. Until finally, 25 years later, it's Starfield. Maybe Naughty Dog doesn't want to reach that 25-year mark where we know exactly what we're going to get from them for so long. And they've said recently that they're moving on from the Uncharted series, something I thought was a beautiful thing to hear, but I hope and believe that they'll want to replace the void left by Uncharted with something brand new and interesting. What that thing could be, however, is up in the air. Something I don't particularly want but think would be very exciting is the return of Jak and Daxter. It would likely be a reboot of the franchise if they did go that route, and because of the cartoonish, less demanding graphics of a Jak and Daxter type game, assuming it had a somewhat similar aesthetic, it could serve a nice change of pace in contrast to working on The Last of Us and Uncharted. But that's not what I want, honestly. If I got to choose what I wanted from Naughty Dog, it would be an entirely new IP. I would want something completely different. I would want to see what the skilled people at Naughty Dog could do with something completely different. And that might be what they're actually up to. But I don't just mean something different in the sense that it would have a different title than their other IP. I mean, I want to see them try something seriously different, because we know Naughty Dog. We know what they do. Grounded, narrative-driven cinematic storytelling in video games where gameplay honestly plays second fiddle to the narratives. And that's cool, but I do wonder what this team with their skills could do if their narrative wasn't grounded. If you had to make a world, if you had to really make a world, some sci-fi shit, some fantasy shit, where you have to make and establish rules. If they'd be up for trying, I'd like to see if they can do that. You know, can you build, craft, and communicate the rules of a truly fictional world? And listen, everybody doesn't have to do everything. What Naughty Dog already does is fine, but part of the reason I'd want to see if they can do other things is partly because I know that they'd make it look amazing. But if there's ultimately no substance to it or no gameplay to it, it might not be worth it, because then we end up with some pretty thing that's boring to play and filled with plot holes. But imagine what we'd get if they could actually pull it off. Because although, in my opinion, most of their games over the past decade don't display particularly good or fun gameplay, they did demonstrate that they do have the ability to make good gameplay with The Last of Us Part 2. The only one of their games in the last 10 years where I think the gameplay is a standout feature. It's honestly a relief that the multiplayer game is coming after The Last of Us Part 2, because prior to that, I'd probably want no part of it. But yeah, because Naughty Dog was able to show us truly good gameplay, I'd love to see what a gameplay-focused new IP would look like. In truth, we'll probably end up splitting the difference on this one, and the new Naughty Dog game will be a new IP, but likely won't be gameplay focused. It'll probably stick to a narrative focus like they do, and it'll probably be a more grounded thing again too. But maybe not. Maybe not. We can hope. If it is narrative driven though, as it likely will be, I do hope it's less derivative than their other stuff. Because as good as their games are, and they are good, you know, The Last of Us games are great, but both Uncharted and The Last of Us are extremely derivative. I mean, Uncharted is just Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider and The Mummy. It's just that again, and the impressive part was the cinematography and the holy shit, you did that in a video game factor, you know? But it's insanely far from original or innovative storytelling. And then The Last of Us just capitalized on the zombie hype at the time and just basically did The Walking Dead, except whoop-de-doo, you put a mushroom on the zombie. I mean, they even just stole the whole grizzled man travels with his not daughter. They stole that from Telltale's The Walking Dead. Naughty Dog just did it with a bigger budget and executed well. And I don't just want to gloss over that. Executing the way they did is not fucking easy, and yes, they should be held up for that. But the core concepts of both Uncharted and The Last of Us are painfully unoriginal. So all I'm saying is I'd love to see them not dive so deeply into another super established trope. But hey, they don't need my fucking suggestions. They could come out with fucking anything right now and it would sell, especially if it said The Last of Us on it. I'm just saying what I'd like to see and giving some opinions. But what do you think Neil and the gang are working on? Maybe it is just The Last of Us Part 3 and I've done all this talking for nothing. Let me know what you think it is, and let me know what you would like to see from Naughty Dog. Maybe you're like me, or maybe you're not. I'd love to read a comment. But listen, if you're gonna fire up your keyboard and tell me how wrong I am about some of the criticisms I may have spouted off about Naughty Dog, just save your energy. I already know Naughty Dog is the best. They've never done anything wrong. It's all the most original and innovative content, best gameplay in the industry. Yes, all of that. I concede you're right. Spare me, please. I'm gonna buy their next game anyway. I'm not who you need to convince. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you guys. Hopefully you didn't hate every bit of this video, but if you did, Wow, you are a trooper for sticking around. And if you happen to have enjoyed the video, then maybe drop in for the next one too, huh? Alright, until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and I can't wait to see what Naughty Dog does next. Goodbye.